So welcome everyone to the third in the series of the Social Star webinars. Today what we're going to do is talk about customer journey mapping and where that fits into the process is. The very first webinar we did was on our broad philosophy of inside-out marketing. So that's how we work with professional services people or knowledge professionals to help them with their marketing through their communities rather than sort of doing digital marketing, paid advertising to go for strangers and bring them in. So that was our first webinar. Then we talked about social selling, which is a very important part of the process in terms of how do we represent ourselves online to meet more clients. Now, the next phase is talking about how do we understand the customer journey map once we've got some clients so that we can ensure that they get the best of our business and that they stay with us and also refer other people. So I brought our specialist on in that area, Tish, to talk to us about that. But we do have a few things to cover just before we get onto that. And I'm glad we have Mr. Paul Dunn here because we're just about to talk about B1G1. So if we want to just jump to that slide as people are coming in. And g'day, Nick. Thanks for coming. So we've got a partnership with an organisation called B1G1. Which is Business for Good. And if you want to scan that QR code or go to that link right now, what we do is we're going to provide one of these three benefits below. And we find that just by attending today that we'll do that on your behalf. And we believe that, by spending a moment to give back to other people, then that makes us feel good and hopefully you as well. They're a great organisation, by the way. If you are running a business, you can join as well, and we find that it is a really valuable part of our business. So, and that was in our communications earlier as well. So if you're missing it today, for those people who come in a bit late, you can always do that at another time. So the next part we wanted to do was to just introduce Tish a little bit. So I might have done the wrong slides, but so Tish has been with us for maybe 6 months now, so maybe a little bit longer. So Tish and I first met a long time ago. I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's long and lengthy, but I actually mentored her back in the day, which speaks to the power of mentoring and to why we do things like giving back, because you never know who you're going to help in the next generation. And fast forward, she's a champion of industry. She's worked in a lot of agencies and large corporations, learning a whole range of different skills, which is adding a huge amount of value to our customers at Social Star. And we're really proud to have her on as COO. And I wanted to introduce you to our community today. But she's a real specialist in this area of customer journey mapping and lots of other areas that we may go back to run in the future. So she's going to run today's session. I'm just doing the introduction. But I do wanted to ask you a few questions about, what is this thing called just customer journey mapping? Because a lot of people haven't actually heard of that before. So before we do that, would you get Tish to say a quick hello and to add a few words before we delve down into the content for today's session? So Tish, do you want to come on and say g'day?
Absolutely. Thank you for the warm intro, Andrew, and thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Tish Tambakau. As Andrew mentioned, I've had lots of experience in working in digital agencies and also in innovation. So customer journey mapping is one of my favorite tools that I use when it comes to problem solving and innovation, which I'll talk through more about today.
Excellent. So you'll hear from Tish about her background as she goes through the journey and starts talking about client examples. And we've run this at several of our clients recently, and we might be able to refer back to a little bit of that to give some context. But if you want to go through, let's just explore a little bit what this topic's about. So the first thing is, well, what is it? What is customer journey mapping and why is it important? So Tish, you want to just give a little bit of sort of context to that for those who haven't come across it before?
Absolutely. So customer journey mapping. Now, it's something you may have heard before, you may have not, but we will be going through all of that today. Essentially, what it is a strategic visual tool that we use to map out each step a customer takes in their journey. Now, that journey is not necessarily their interaction with you as a business, but it's them completing completing a task that they want to achieve. So, for example, Maria owns a consulting business. Her task is to want to market her business, but she doesn't just think about marketing instantly as one singular action. There's a number of things that she does as part of that, which is everywhere from research to considering her business needs, all the way through to once her marketing has launched, what does she do after that? She optimizes and she continues on that cycle. So customer journey mapping is a way to look at the end-to-end experience holistically and then break down from there what are the opportunities to improve each part of the process, whether that's front facing to the customer or even back of house. Also identify what the pain points are and any opportunities to improve that. So it's a great tool to have that bird's eye view of how your customer is completing a task and creating that optimized experience.
Yeah, and we all know that it's much easier to keep a customer than to get a new one. So, this is why this is such an important methodology to apply to your business and, adopt. In fact, we've done it we had an offsite about a month or so ago, and we went through this entire process with our own team, which if you could see our office is sitting on the back wall over there. So, we are, using our own methodology when it comes to these sorts of things. So, Tish, let's go to the next question.
Absolutely. Now, I'll just touch on why it's important for businesses. Now, this is an opportunity to look beyond just a customer's interaction with you. As I mentioned before, it's a chance to look at the experience holistically. So put yourself in their shoes, understand what the tasks are they have to complete. Is there an opportunity even before they come and interact with your business and brand to provide them with valuable tools or tips or information that can make them think of you and utilize your service? It's also an opportunity to support them in their journey as well. And it's a really great tool to help with decision making because you can see how changing or optimizing or implementing something at the very start of that journey can have a knock-on effect all throughout different touch points that the customer interacts with you as well. So it's a great tool to have. It's a very visual tool. It's one of the things I love about this is that it's collaborative. So you don't necessarily do this by yourself. You do it with your existing customers, potential customers, and your team as well. And it's a great way to be able to bring everyone on the same page and strategically identify opportunities and make decisions together to improve that customer experience. So what I will do next is talk a little bit about what it is and some examples. So as I mentioned before, I've got a background in innovation, and this is one of the tools that I really like using. But what does it mean when I speak about innovation? I think we all know the technology innovation like Apple that has completely disrupted our, everything that we do in the last decade. But what I mean when I talk about innovation in this context is essentially change that adds value. It doesn't have to be a big I innovation, which is completely disruptive, but it is making a small change by identifying what are the problems that our customer have or what are the pain points, and then creating a solution or an idea that provides them value. And that way we improve that overall experience. And that's really the core of what a customer journey map does, is being able to improve that experience with customers. And as we know, once we provide that really good experience for customers, in turn, they're more likely to have a much more positive experience with us, be able to return as a customer and also refer on to their network and friends as well about the positive experience that they have. Now, before I jump straight into the tool, I just want to talk a little bit about human-centered design thinking, because this is the methodology that we use as part of the problem-solving approach. So some of you may have heard of it, but for those who haven't, what is human-centered design? It's essentially a methodology where it puts the customer or the at the heart of the solution that we're designing for. It is a problem-solving methodology, and anyone can use it. But essentially what it does, it combines that critical and also creative thinking to find new ways to solve problems that may not have been thought of before, or essentially just identify what those problems are and be able to add value, as we talked about, in terms of adding innovation into the way that we do things. It is a mindset that is focused on solutions, not just the problem as well. As part of human-centered design thinking, we use an approach called the double diamond. Now, this is a great diagram, but can look very confusing. So I'll take you through how it's broken down into. It is a design and innovation methodology. And as part of solving problems for customers and for people, what the double diamond represents here is divergent and convergent thinking. So if you look at the top, there's 4 different phases, which is discover, define, develop, and deliver. Now, when we are in the discover phase of identifying what the problem is or what the cause is to the problem for our customers, we want to go outwards. So that is the divergent thinking. And what that means essentially is that we want to explore and really understand what the problem is for a customer. It could be as straightforward as, it's too difficult for them to find the information that we need. But when we unpack that and go a bit deeper, we understand why they have trouble. Is it because they're not being able to access information? Is it because the information is not discoverable? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? So at this point, we really want to explore multiple options. Then the next phase is we go into define. So once we clearly understand what the problem set is or the multiple causes to the problem, we go into convergent thinking. So we really define what that problem statement is. We pull our resources and make sure that we have a very clear problem statement, that one that we can solve properly for the customer. And as you know, we don't want to simply create a problem statement that doesn't fully relate to or address the cause of the problem, because then that means we're going to come up with a solution that doesn't meet the need of the customer. So this process is really important, that we thoroughly understand what the customer is going through, have that empathy for them, be in their shoes, and be able to, properly define what that problem is. And then once we have that problem, we go into develop. So this is really the ideation phase, where we want to then again go out into that divergent thinking. When we start to ideate, we want to think about all the different ideas and solutions that we can to solve this problem. So we want to consider a range of different things here. We typically do this as a workshop with a lot of people, where we come up with multiple ideas and we consider all the different ideas that are on the table. And then once we have a range of these ideas, we go into deliver. So we go back into that convergent thinking, where we hone in on a solution that we believe that's going to solve the problem the best, and then we look to deliver that solution. Now, if you look in the middle of these diamonds, there is a circular arrow that goes round, and what this essentially means is that each of these steps is an iterative process. It's not once and done. We want to continually test and prototype and see if the solution and ideas that we're coming up with suits and fixes the customer's problem. Now, here are some core principles of design thinking that I think be really relevant to touch on, because mapping may be a new tool to you, one that you haven't used before, and that's okay. And this process might feel really new. But one of the things that we always ground ourselves on are these 5 core principles. So the first one is that it's always human-centered. And what I mean by this is that when we can, we go out and talk to our customers or potential customers. We really understand and put ourselves in their shoes. We do research by speaking to them, and that way we validate some of the assumptions that we have, and we really understand who our customer is and what they go through. The next thing is that it's holistic, and this speaks very truly to the customer journey mapping. because we do want to understand the entire environment and end-to-end experience. It's not just that one touch point where they may interact with you, your business. It really is that end-to-end journey that they go through to complete a task or to make an action. And when that happens, it's a good chance for us to be able to optimize their experience for them, but also optimize our business process, whether that's in the back end as well. The next thing is really important, which is that this creative problem solving process is messy. And what I mean by that is, we're going to come up with a lot of problems and ideas and solutions. And sometimes it may not be very clear what the end point is, which is completely fine because it's, the process of human-centered design is that it's non-linear. It is about learning. It is about testing. It is about working and continually evolving an idea or solution to make sure that we can constantly get that feedback from the customer and get to a point where it's not perfect, but it's all about making it progress over perfection. The next one is that it's tangible. So what I love about this process is that it visualizes everything on post-its or on a piece of paper, and we're all looking and talking about the same thing that's on the wall. Now, often when we're in meetings, we can share some ideas and it's verbal, but when it's written down and we're all looking at the same thing, it evens out the playing field in terms of understanding what we're talking about and makes it a much better collaborative process. Which brings it to the last point, which is that it is co-creative. And this is one of my favorite things about human-centered design and customer journey mapping, is that it's not done alone, and that we bring in different expertise, different perspectives, and co-create together so that it's not only one person's perspective. We do consider the multidisciplinary teams and ideas to make sure that we add diversity of thought into what we do. So now we get into the customer journey mapping process itself. And this is very much how we start about going and approaching it. So the first thing is the problem statement. We create a how might we statement that essentially outlines the problem and outcome. So for that very early example on before, how might we statement might be, how might we help Maria identify, clear opportunities for her consultant business so that her customers know to go to her when they need a specific solution in mind. Now, that's a very, very high level example, and we'll go through a better example shortly. But that's a clear problem statement and one that we can work with when we start to go into a customer journey map. The next thing is a persona. So we want to be really clear about who the problem is we're solving for. Usually, it's very easy for us to go into problem solving and ideation with ourselves in mind, but most often than not, we're not designing for ourselves, we're designing for someone else. So we want to create a very clear persona of who the person is that we're solving for, and being able to step into their shoes when we're solving for them or in the ideation process. The next thing is the actual journey map. So this is where we all get together into a workshop. This might involve a few members of our team, a few members of your team, and potentially, if you've got a good relationship with a customer or potential customer, we could bring them in and add their voice into the creation of this journey map. And then we step through that process of creating this journey map together. And really shortly, I'll show you visually what that looks like. Then once we create the journey map, this will produce a number of opportunities for us to identify how do we optimize this experience, what could we do better around this part of the process, there's a pain point for this customer over here, how do we solve for it? And that's when we go into ideation. So we might come back together as a team and we'll come up with some ideas around how do we solve this specific problem in this part of the process. Then once we have a number of ideas, we start to prioritize them. And we want to prioritize them because we might have 20, 50, 100 ideas, and we can't do them all at once. So we use a very simple impact effort matrix, which looks at how do we, what's going to take the least effort but create the highest impact. And we'll start with prioritizing those quick wins first before we move on to major projects. Then what we do is we create a measurement plan. So we want to identify any metrics to measure the effectiveness of this idea and make sure that we, anything we invest in, we're going to get a return of investment in. And then we develop an implementation plan. So how do we then bring all these great ideas to life and make sure that we can implement them, action them, look at how they perform. Now, the journey map itself. Why do we want to do it and what is the purpose? As I mentioned before, it is to visually capture all the steps of a user's journey, whether it's through a service or a task from end to end, and it's not just the digital touch points as well. Now, there's two ways that we can do this. One is in the current state, which we talk about as exploring the problem. So this is where we do some research, we speak to our customers, and then we start to visualize what that current state of their experience is. An alternative method to doing this is look at the future state. So this is where it's a more ideation journey map tool that we can use. And we use this to envision the ideal customer journey based on the opportunities we've identified. Now, both of these current state and future state are not mutually exclusive. You can do one or the other, or to be most effective, we should do both, because then you can identify what are the pain points and what is the future state we want to create. And essentially that creates a roadmap to how we're going to create that ideal envisioned journey. Now, when do we do this? In the current state, we do this when we've done a bunch of research and we want to analyze the findings to see how the current systems support that user experience. And in the future state, we may have identified new ideas or solutions to help impact the whole experience and not just that specific point of the journey. So we'll create this future state map to see how the overall flow will work for this experience. Now, what are the key stages of a customer journey? I do have a quick, I'll go through a couple more slides and then I have a quick break for questions before I go into the detail. Now, this is the journey map template. So at the top here, you can see different phases that a customer might go through as part of their consideration or fulfillment of a task. So they might start off with doing some research, and then once they do that, they might do some awareness of what their options are out there. They'll then go into a consideration phase to make their choice. Then they'll go into a purchase. So what do they choose to, engagement in terms of a product or service? And then what happens once they post-purchase? And then lastly, what happens after that in terms of driving that retention? Now, on the far left corner, you'll see some different headings, and I call this swim lanes because they do look like swim lanes. You've been watching the Olympics lately. But basically, it starts with what is the task that the customer is doing at each point of these different phases, right? And this is where we'll get a post-it and start to outline what is that first task they do? What is that trigger point? And we map out each individual task as, minute of a detail as, create a short list or go onto Google and research options. Then the next swim lanes is the touch points. So what does the customer use to make this happen? For those examples I just gave, you can use Google, or you could even, for someone who likes to write hard copy lists, you might even get a touch point being writing a physical list as well. So there's different touch points outside the digital that we want to capture every single one as part of this process. Then this is where it gets interesting. So what is the emotion? How is the customer feeling at every point of the journey? And very likely is that they're not going to feel happy at every stage of the journey, right? I mean, we're all humans. We know that life is not that black and white where we feel happy about everything. So we're definitely going to see some peaks and troughs here where people might feel happy, they might feel frustrated, they might feel stressed. And this emotion swim lane is a great way to help navigate, okay, well, what are the parts that the customer is not feeling so great about, and how do we then add value? Is there an opportunity to add value? Is there an opportunity to add that delight to their overall experience? The next swim lane is pains. So what are the barriers that stop customers from achieving their task? What are their frustrations or their unpleasant experiences? And we want to call out specifically what's not working for them. because then that will lead into the last swim lane, which is the opportunities. So what areas does the customer need help with? What might we improve and what might we create? Now, very easily, people might go into solution mode for here. So they might see a pain point is that, um, a customer might not have access to the internet at that point of time. They might be in rural Victoria and might not have access to the internet. So an opportunity might be to provide a, internet dongle for them to easily access. But what we want to make sure at this point is that we're not going straight into solution mode, is that we're just calling out the opportunity. So what is the opportunity here, which might be, how do we help them access the information that we need? All right, before I go into some examples, I thought I'd take a quick break and see if anyone has any questions so far.
Nick, I see you're looking curious there. Have you got anything you want to add?
Yes, I use Miro. We use Miro as well, but I would like to always start with doing it in person if possible and just straightforward post-it and blank sheets of paper onto a wall. But where that's not possible, we collaborate on Miro as a tool. Yes. Yes, spot on. We use, and Miro has a great feature where you can take a photo of your wall and it transposes the post-it directly into digital post-its, which is great. Got to have good handwriting for that too, otherwise it doesn't recognize it properly. But I agree, that's what we use in terms of digitizing the journey map. Miro is the best tool for that. Slide that you were referencing, yeah, great. Absolutely, and we want to capture all of those steps where we can. So what I typically like to do is we always start with task. So this is the collaborative process where as a whole room or a whole workshop, we outline each individual task together and one person note takes and lays it all out. And then once we have all the task layout end to end is where then we open up the room for everyone to identify what the touch points are, emotions. So this is where it's a bit of a free for all where people can grab post-its, they can start to add their own ideas or thoughts onto the journey map. But I do like to start with task first. And I think, where it makes sense to really get into the detail or the minutiae of each individual task, because you never know, there might be an opportunity to improve the smallest interaction or touch point at a really small task level. You're welcome. Anyone else before I go into examples?
We'll have another Q&A at the end, so maybe
yes, we will.
Push on.
All right.
Now we'll go with examples of what these
will look like. So the first thing is developing a persona of the type of people that we're looking for. Now, this example that I'll go through today is one that we've done for Social Star team itself. Took them through the process of creating a journey map for Social Star as an agency, and we created a persona for our potential customer. So here we have a persona for someone who's a business owner, who company, a large professional services firm. He's a visionary leader and has many ideas on how to grow his business. As part of personas, the purpose of this tool is to get into the shoes of the person that we're designing for. So it's really important to outline what are their goals, what are their hopes, and what are their dreams. But more importantly, what are the challenges that we go through? Because no one lives in an ideal state. So we really need to identify what are the typical pain points that he might have in, running his business day to day or just going through everyday life. And this is an example of what a persona could be. Now, you don't necessarily just need one persona for a customer journey map. You might have 2 personas or 3 personas, depending on your business and the different service offering that you have. You might have a few personas to build out as part of the customer journey map. And what you do is you build out a customer journey map for each, if they're very different. Types of people who would have very separate experiences. Then next we go into the problem statement. So this is how might we, for Savant's how might we statement, we've outlined one here. So how might we create a social star system and experience that supports business owners like Savant to easily invest in his ideas so that we can be their go-to partner to execute quality ideas and catapult the business to the next level. We want to make sure that the problem statement is clear. What is the problem that we're solving for, but also make sure that it's not too condensed or too limited where it limits the ideas that we come up with. The next step is the customer journey map. So this is where we go into the process of developing a customer journey map. What we did for the team is we laid out the swim lanes using, butcher's paper on a wall, and we mapped out the different phases at the top and then the swim lanes down the side. And then I allocated some time during the workshop to doing. So we started with that first lane of outlining all the tasks together. And then in the remaining time, I allowed people to, take a post-it of their own and start coming up with ideas. And this is essentially what it looked like. As I mentioned before, it's really important that we start on the task swim lane together because that creates the foundation of the journey map. Once we have that, where everyone in the room is aligned on, okay, what is the task? What is the journey? What is the steps that our potential customer takes? And once that foundation is built, everyone has the opportunity to then look at it holistically and start to input their own ideas and thoughts into the different swim lanes, starting from the touch points to the emotions, to the pain points and the opportunities. And what I love about this process is that because everyone has a different experience and perspective to bring to the table, you might see a poster that's up there that makes you think, oh, I didn't think of that. That's a really good, suggestion or a really good opportunity. And people might think of, your inputs as the same or vice versa. Because this is a co-design process, we invite different ideas and different perspectives to the table, which is really the benefit of doing a customer journey map like this. Yep. So this is the result of what our customer journey map looked like. It was across 5 pieces of butcher's paper. We got lots of inputs, lots of ideas, but this isn't just the final result. This is only the beginning of the customer journey map. Essentially what happens from here is that we start to digitize it into Miro. This is what it looks like. And we start to put it into a really nice template just to be able to visualize, what those tasks are, what those touch points are, and then more so synthesize the opportunities into clear groups of opportunities that we can kind of tackle in one cohesive experience. And once we have those different group opportunities, we can go into ideation and then create some more ideas out of that. Or if the opportunities are clear and straightforward enough, we then put them into a prioritized matrix, which is the impact and effort matrix, a really easy matrix that we can use where you look at each initiative or idea under these 2 axes of, is it high effort or low effort to complete, and is it low impact or high impact? As you can see, if it was a low sorry, if it was a high effort and a low impact, it's basically a money pit. So we don't really want to go there. But really, the ones that we do want to move forward with the high impact and low effort, because these are easy and quick wins, but also the high impact and high effort, which are key projects, but we know they're going to, if we invest into those projects, they're going to deliver maximum return to the customer in terms of that improved experience. So the next question here is really for Andrew to ask me, but I'm happy to answer it.
You might as well go ahead. You got the floor. You're doing so well.
No problem. Thanks, Andrew. So how can you start implementing a customer journey map? Now, it's really straightforward. The first thing is to understand and put yourself in your customer's shoes. As I mentioned, it's really important that we do this because it is a human-centered design process. We really want to understand what our customers are going through, what are the jobs that they need to be doing, what their pain points are. And we may have an idea of this, but it may very well be assumptions. So it's really important that we conduct that research upfront to understand them. If this is something that you're interested in, by all means, reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you start this first process as well. Now, in terms of a really successful case study, an example, I once worked with an organization that utilized a customer journey map to help identify their future state strategy for the organization. And the problem that they needed to solve is that their organization was growing exponentially. They had multiple products and services. However, the operating model made it so that each of the teams that looked after each division or product and service worked very much in silos. So how that translated externally to the market was that people were experiencing each individual product or service as a fragmented experience. So if you go into their website, the different parts of the website looks different. It might have a different tone. When you're interacting with one product or service, that experience with interacting with them might be completely different with another product and service. And it really created a unpleasant ecosystem experience when interacting with this company. So what happened is we then created a customer journey map that looked from the customer's point of view, how they would interact with the different parts of our organization from an end-to-end journey perspective. Once we'd done this, we were able to identify and see where the opportunities are, sure, and what the pain points are, but how each product and service had a very core component in impacting each other and affecting the overall service. And we start to see golden threads between how if we did something at the very front end of the journey would impact something in the middle and the end. So we use this as a strategic business tool to identify how do we improve not just one part of the experience, but the overall experience, and what are the things that we need to do to make sure that it's a considered experience end to end. This tool was then, this customer journey map was then used to identify what the future strategy was for the organization from a digital point of view. And then that informed, okay, the level of investment and the level of changes that we needed to make to different parts of the organization, but particularly the different parts of the user's experience when it comes to products and services as well. So this is a really good example of how you can use this as a strategic tool to help you with decision making in your business, but also, the more that you can add to it, whether it's data and analytics, quantitative data that you can add to the journey map, will just only not help you make better informed decisions as well. I just touched on this really briefly around how it helps with strategic decision making. And lastly, this is one, we talked about how it worked well, but I'd really like to talk about how it hasn't worked well that I've seen. And this is where an organization does the customer journey mapping exercise and has it a tool on the wall, but stops there and doesn't do anything else from it. So as I mentioned before, doing the customer journey map is only the beginning of the process. You can't just stop there, because even though you've got this valuable insights and knowledge and data, if you don't do anything to inform any improvements, then customer experience will just remain the same. So it can't just be a tool or an item that tick off the to-do list. It's really the start of your blueprint to improve what that experience is with a customer. So I've had this organization, invest a lot of people and time and money and come up with this, beautifully designed, experience on one of the walls in the organization, and would take, different teams and senior leaders through this customer journey map, but it wasn't used for any future strategic decision making, and it just remained an artifact on the wall. And we don't want that. We really want to use this as something that we could use as a roadmap and come back to as well, right? Because we know that a customer journey is not stagnant. If we make an improvement in 6 month time, in 12-month time, we should really look at their journey again. How is the changes that we've made causing a positive or negative impact to the overall journey? Is there anything else we can do? Are there new pain points that have come up that we haven't identified? So it's definitely a tool where it's not once and it's done. It's something that we want to come back to. All right, that takes it to the end of my presentation today. Hopefully I've had a chance to walk you through what customer journey mapping is, how to do it, the benefits of it, and also how to get started. I will open up now to the floor again. If you have any questions, or feel free to leave them in the chat box as well.
Nick, any follow-up questions, or are you done? No, we have a fixed price. Yeah, we charge $2,500 for this process with our clients, and we do that as a fixed fee, and we find that it then leads on to other work that either can be done by their organisation, depending on their capacities, or leads into other things that we need to do for them, which could be designing, collateral, or filling gaps in the process with particular marketing things. But obviously, there's some things we can do, but they need to do a lot of that. They need to own the process. And we find that it's a really valuable process to do. We try and get their clients involved and other people. So Savan's actually a real client who did this with us, and I'm actually a client of his business, and so I was representing that in the day. And I found it actually really interesting to go through that process because Tish ran it. Tish is the expert in this space. And even just having the awareness of, they just didn't know what the what the process was, and because there's a new area of their business, got lots of areas of their business. So this is another thing that for larger organisations, it could be they need to do this for maybe just not by different buyer personas, but different areas and elements of the business. If you're thinking of a corporation, they could have 10 different divisions. Do you do this now, Nick? Is this something you actively do, or you're looking to do in the future? Or? Yeah.
You're most
No,
welcome.
thanks. Thanks for the feedback. One thing to consider, Nick, is like when we were doing it with one of our clients on this particular area. So one of the pain points is that the buyer persona, and he's the head of the business, is doing a lot of the work manually, as in onboarding clients and so forth. And so we're going to replace that work that he does with, say, a video of him, introducing the concept. And today is actually like that for us. Is we are recording this and we're going to be using this as an asset in our business. So if someone's curious about, what is customer journey map? Well, we can point them to the asset. And so we firmly believe that creating these assets and processes just is so necessary in today's business to save time. And so, that could be an opportunity for you to introduce those sorts of things to your clients as well. So particularly if they're going more tech. No. Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
Did you learn this at AGSM, or is this something you've done afterwards, or?
Oh, great.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Well, it's shared knowledge, right? And like I've seen it, but I've never run it, and so I wasn't confident until. And Tish has run it many times, so that's why it was great. Now that she's here, we can offer as a service. So, yeah. But all right, well, we might leave it there. Thanks for your contribution, Nick. Appreciate that. And one thing I want to say is the next webinar, just before we get onto this, is we're going to run it on the way we work with our professional services clients to help them build content. It's called our expert marketing system. And so we're going to give away all our secrets. You might want to come along, Nick, to how we then go, because that's really what post is to you know how to manage your clients, how do you keep them engaged, but also get them to refer you, because that's really the way to build professional services businesses is through referrals. So that's our next webinar that we'll run next month. But if people do want to learn more about customer journey mapping, we're going to offer some introductory calls where people can come and explore, and we'll give away a free hour consulting to do that. So, if anyone has any people out there that might be of interest, please pass that along. So I think that brings us to our end. Tish, any more comments before we head off that you wanted to add?
No, that I hope this has opened some thoughts and ideas on how we can continue to add value to our customers. So thanks for coming in today.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next month.